We are now beginning the Executive Committee of Sandag on December 3rd, Friday at 8 a.m. We hopefully have a short meeting today for the Executive Committee. So before we begin, I'd like to ask our interpreter, Ruth, to introduce herself and walk through interpretation services.
Yes, good morning. I will repeat the message that follows in English. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, por favor desplácese a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, que es el globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom en celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos, luego Interpretation y luego el idioma. Gracias. To use the Zoom interpreting feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are located. Click on the interpretation icon, which is the world icon, and select English as your language. If you are joining using the Zoom mobile app on a cell phone, tablet, etc., please press the ellipses, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, I invite you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so next we have public comment. Do we have any public comments today?
Thank you, Chair. I don't see any hands from the public.
Okay. Do we have any member comments? Don't see any member comment hands. So the next item is our consent agenda. So we have just 2 items on consent, but I would also like to add to the 2 items for the December 17th agenda and then the January 14th agenda. So the first is an item on December 17th related to the bus stopover facility. And the second is an item on January 14th to approve the new military working group chair. Victoria, would you like to say anything about those items?
Nope, I think you covered them.
Okay, so if there aren't any questions or comments, then I would entertain a motion on consent.
Move approval.
Second the approval.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion and a second.
Thank you very much. For the City of San Diego, Vice Chair Gloria.
Aye.
Thank you. For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Aye.
Thank you. For East County, Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez, aye.
Thank you. For North County Coastal, Chair Blakespear.
Blakespear, aye.
Thank you. For North County Inland, Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Thank you. And for South County, Second Vice Chair Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
Thank you very much. And that does pass unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have our report. So we have a legislative status report by 2 very special guests. We have Peter Pizer and Kirk Blackburn, and this is our federal and state advocates. And we have invited them because of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that's coming out of Washington, D.C. And this will have a major effect on how Sandag continues to deliver these important transportation projects in our county. So we would like to know how this federal legislation will affect us here in the San Diego region. So I'm excited to hear the update on that. So we'll hand it over to Peter for you to share with us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the Executive Committee, it's great to be with you. It was good to see some of you a couple of weeks ago for the Mid-Coast opening. That was a particularly wonderful event and great to see that happening after all the work that so many of you put into that project for so many years. So we have a brief deck here, and if I could ask the team to put it up. I'm going to talk very briefly about this landmark federal legislation. To be able to come to you and say that after all these years, Congress has passed a generational investment in infrastructure with a particular focus on transportation is really a great moment. And, the world of advocacy for this for many years has included forceful advocacy by Sandag and by many of you. So there's been a lot of contributors to this legislation, including people on this executive committee. So thank you for that effort. So this law was signed into effect by the president just a couple of weeks ago. Broad overview here. This is a $1.2 trillion investment in infrastructure across a variety of categories over 5 years. Of that amount, 550 billion of it is new investment over and above the baseline levels for the various programs. And of that amount, more than half, 286 billion, is in the transportation sector. And just looking at the transportation breakdown here, you see that there's a 63% increase over the next 5 years in public transit spending over the previous baseline level. There's a 42% increase in highway investment and a whopping 580%, almost six-fold increase in rail investment, which shows you that President Biden has earned that nickname, Amtrak Joe, that so many people have bestowed upon him. Let's go to the next slide. So there's a lot of existing programs that have received very significant increases in this legislation. Some of them you're familiar with. All of them have been of interest to Sandag and to agencies in San Diego County in recent years. In the transit program, the Capital Investment Grant Program, which funded Midcoast and which will fund other elements of the regional plan in the future, is doubled by this legislation, which is very important, particularly in California, where there are a number of projects entering the pipeline now. And having a doubling of this program means that we won't have a traffic jam of California projects in this program to the extent that we might have difficulty getting them all in. That's very helpful. Discretionary bus grants will be increased. MTS has had an interest in these, other providers in the county as well. And also no emissions grants, very significant increases to buy buses and bus facilities that support no emission and low emission buses. And given the mandate in California for fleet conversion, this is a very important opportunity in the San Diego region. In the highway program, 2 programs that have been of interest to Sandag that are both for highways and multimodal projects, Infra and RAISE. Those are both acronyms, but the Infra program is mostly for highway and freight projects, but of significant interest, for example, to the Otay Mesa East border crossing project. The RAISE grants are for local and regional projects across a variety of modes, and some of your cities and the county and Sandag have been very interested in those. On the rail side, CRISI, which is a rail infrastructure safety program, has been of significant interest to Sandag because of the Del Mar Bluffs project, and as well as the federal state partnership program for low sand corridor projects generally. All of these programs, significant increases from their previous levels. Let's move on to the next slide. And then we have a bunch of new programs that are going to be a major focus for Sandag going forward. There's a bridge investment program, very significant multi-billion-dollar annual program that includes a significant formula element where money will go to Caltrans, but also a discretionary element where local governments and metropolitan planning organizations are eligible to apply. Reconnecting Communities is a new program designed to address some of the inequities in communities around the country that have been caused by mostly highway investments that divided communities of color in many cases from other elements of that community and from the city at large. And this is a discretionary grant program to help redress some of those. EV charging infrastructure, a program of significant interest in San Diego County. This is again, partly a formula program, but also a discretionary grant program for which local entities can apply to install EV charging infrastructure. And so there'll be significant opportunities there. There is a resilience program with the acronym PROTECT, which has an element of discretionary grant funding, which, for example, could be used for Del Mar Bluffs types of projects to provide for more resilient infrastructure on a going forward basis. And then finally, there's a National Infrastructure Project Assistance Program, which everyone is referring to as mega projects. This is for large projects of national importance that require some additional assistance. One of the projects that is in the Sandag portfolio that is a candidate here would be Otay Mesa East border crossing. So this is an example. There is one more that I left off this list inadvertently that should be of interest, I think, to a lot of the members of this executive committee and members of the Sandag board, not just as Sandag board members, but on behalf of your own cities. There's a new Safe Streets program, which is a discretionary grant program that is targeted on making street networks in cities more pedestrian friendly and safer for both pedestrians and bicyclists as well as motorists. So very, very important opportunity there. So let's go to the next slide. The staff asked me to chat for a minute about affordable housing because I know this is an issue that's been coming up for you frequently. There is no funding in this bill for affordable housing. There is proposed funding in the upcoming Build Back Better Act that you've read about, the next item on the president's legislative agenda, which is currently pending. But there's no affordable housing funding in this particular bill. There are some provisions, though, that do tie the transit program more effectively to affordable housing. This is an issue that Congressman Peters in particular has been pushing very hard. So there will be some incentives to advance affordable housing agendas along with transportation projects built into the transportation program. So that's a broad overview. I think what I would say about our work going forward is that, as I've outlined, there are a lot of discretionary grant programs here for which Sandag and some of your cities and the county will be interested in applying. And sorting out the best opportunities and the way to apply these funds to priorities of this board and of Sandag is going to be an important piece of work for us in the next couple of months so that we're ready to respond effectively when grant applications are available, probably starting in the spring and summer of next year. So huge opportunities to address the major issues that you are dealing with at Sandag. And I'm happy to be able to report on those today. And I think we'll turn it over to Kirk now.
So Kirk, are you preparing to go?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
Yeah, I can go ahead and proceed. Good morning, everyone. Good to see everyone. And Kirk Blackburn with Ellison Wilson Advocacy, we're the state's legislative advocates up here in Sacramento. Yeah, happy to build on what Peter's talking about as far as the federal infrastructure bill. It's great news to see how much additional money is flowing into California. Our understanding is about 45.5 billion in total is going to be flowing in from the infrastructure bill into California. This adds to the $31 billion surplus being estimated for California for the 2022 budget year. So while much of the infrastructure, federal infrastructure money is going to come in through federal grants, there is a significant amount of money that will be provided directly to California. And this money will be likely be the subject of extensive budget negotiations between the governor and legislature about how this will be spent in 2022. So timing wise, legislature is currently on recess until January. And then when they come back, the governor must release its initial budget proposal by January 10th. At that point, that kicks off this year's round of budget negotiations. As we've seen over the last few years, rather than just one lump budget deal that's released in usually mid-June, we've seen over the last few years a bit of a piecemeal approach. So we're seeing aspects of the budget deals come in throughout the year. So we expect to see that. Specifically, what we think we're going to see coming out of this with the infrastructure money or the federal money, we're going to be looking at transportation funding. Last year, the governor and the legislature ended with a stalemate over transportation funding and agreed to renew these negotiations in early 2022. Specifically, there was a disagreement about how to spend the remaining $4.2 billion from Prop 1A, the high-speed rail bond measure approved by the voters in 2008. Governor wanted it to use to complete the ongoing high-speed rail work in the Central Valley, essentially between Merced and Bakersfield, while the legislature wanted to use some of that money for other rail projects throughout other parts of the state. So they agreed to renew these negotiations back in once the legislature resumes in 2022. So with the influx of the IIJA money, so as I understand, 25.3 billion for federal aid highway apportionment programs, 4.2 billion for bridge replacement repair, and 9.45 billion to improve public transportation options. So plus the state's $3.1 billion surplus, this should definitely help with these negotiations and hopefully grease things a little more smoothly for everyone and facilitate a compromise between all parties so that we can get a transportation deal and money flowing very quickly in 2022. Beyond that, we expect to see further discussions on broadband infrastructure. From the federal infrastructure bill, California is going to receive a minimum allocation of 100 million to provide broadband coverage across the state. Additionally, the NTIA, the federal agency administration, will be distributing an additional 48 billion in grants. So those guidelines are going to be approved within the next 180 days or so and will be based on need. This complements the $6 billion the state invested in last year's budget to expand broadband coverage. So which that included 3 billion for state-owned middle mile network and 2 billion for last mile projects. So given that the state already has existing data gathering and planning mechanisms in place, it appears that the state's going to be well positioned for these additional grants on broadband. So that's great news. A lot of work's already been done. Expect to see further negotiations based on some of the federal money coming in on electric vehicle infrastructure. Peter talked about it a little bit. I think states are due to receive about 384 million to expand the EV charging network in the state. This complements 3.9 billion that was invested in zero emission vehicles last year in the budget. Expect to see wildfire protection be a discussion. I think the state's due to receive 84 million, which complements 2 billion in last year's state budget. And then there's also some money for airport infrastructure in there as well, 1.4 billion or 1.5 billion. So we'll be keeping everyone updated going forward once the legislature resumes, and we'll keep Sandag involved in these discussions as they go forward. And with that, happy to answer any questions or anything like that. But yeah, that's the state's perspective on the federal bill. Still early, but great news all around.
Okay, well, thank you so much for the updates. I'm going to call on Mayor Jones in a second, but I just wanted to quickly ask if all of the things that were discussed today seem like they were competitive grants. So is there any money that's coming directly to cities or directly to Sandag?
Yes, there's significant existing formula programs like the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program, the CMAQ Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Program, both of those with significant increases. on the order of 50%. And in the transit formula program, which delivers money to MTS and NCTD, there is an increase of about 70% in that resource. So those are direct monies by formula to the region that are increased significantly in this package.
Okay, and is that available for operations for transit, that last part?
No,
No, okay,
no, it is not. And operations, there's been a ban on using federal money for operations for transit going back to the Reagan administration. In the Build Back Better legislation, which is now pending, there is a $10 billion program that's called the Affordable Housing Access Program. It's essentially a transit program. And in that program, there is operating assistance money. So there may be an opportunity to access federal money to support operating assistance if that is enacted.
okay. And what were the two that you said at the very beginning that go directly to cities?
So the Surface Transportation Block Grant and the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality goes directly to MPOs.
Okay,
So it goes
not
to
cities.
It doesn't go directly to cities.
Okay.
Yeah, there aren't formula dollars here going directly to city governments.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And I'm going to call Mayor Jones, but just to give everybody an update. So we need to allow the public to comment on particularly the consent item, which was our draft agenda for December 17th. And that there was basically inadequate instruction for how the public could participate. So we're gonna, right after these comments on this agenda item, we need to circle back to that. So we'll take public comment. So if you're listening, thinking where is my chance to talk? It's about to come up. So just give us a couple more minutes while we finish this item and then we'll circle to that. So Mayor Jones.
Yeah, so I just had a question on the federal funding. I did raise my hand at that time, so we didn't go back into the state funding. But my question is, my understanding there was some sort of situation where we were not eligible for some of these funds due to our PEPRA legislation. So I'm wondering how that would affect us, because I think that would be a very important part of the conversation if we're expecting and predicting that we will be receiving funding that we're not eligible for. I'm not sure how that works.
Right, good question. So there's been a provision in federal law going back to the early days of the transit program in the 60s that is designed to make sure that federal money in no way disadvantages the collective bargaining rights or working conditions of organized labor providing public transit services. The interpretation of that over time has been that every grant made by the Federal Transit Administration has to get a sign off from the Department of Labor, a separate federal agency, that it complies with those requirements. The transit unions believe that the PEPRA law violates that federal protection. It's been a matter of dispute between them and transit agencies in California ever since PEPRA was enacted. And there's a pending lawsuit to adjudicate that question. The recent event that has brought this back to people's attention is that the Biden administration has reversed the position that had been taken previously, and they're not defending in that lawsuit the federal position that grants should flow to transit agencies in California. So the state is defending that proposition, but it's still being adjudicated. It probably means that certification of grants by the Department of Labor is going to be problematic for almost all of the agencies in California until this gets resolved. There's an important issue, though, for people to be aware about in San Diego, which is that MTS has a collective bargaining agreement going back to 2015, I believe, that has, or even earlier, that has a direct contribution plan that is PEPRA compliant. And because of that, back in 2015, the Amalgamated Transit Union, which is the major union at MTS, stipulated that MTS grants should go ahead, even with this federal limitation. That stipulation allowed the grants to flow to MTS while others were being held up. I have every reason to believe that we could work something like that out again, if need be, if this continues to be a problem. So my sense is that this is a problem that can be resolved in the next few months, one hopes. For the statewide agencies, for everybody, MTS will probably be able to go ahead, one hopes, regardless, but then NCTD and others, will still need a solution. But my sense is this will get worked out and in time for grants to be able to flow from these discretionary programs. But there may be some brief holdup in the normal formula grants that come through without a competitive process. So I hope that answers your question, Mayor.
Well, as my city attorney always says, when we go into some sort of lawsuit or some sort of court, we have a 50-50 chance, even if we're 100% right. So my concern would be if we're counting on this money to actually come to us and we don't really have a clear path to that happening, and it could literally change at any moment, that is a little concerning to me. Just as, as someone that's very conservative financially, I think, saying that we're going to get money when we don't know if we're going to get that money is a little tenuous in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Hassan, did you want to comment?
Yeah, just very briefly, Peter, correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is a statewide issue, and Governor Newsom has communicated with the administration. So we're very confident this will be resolved, but it might take, like Peter said, might take a few months.
Okay, I'm going to call on Supervisor Lawson Reamer and then Mayor Satel-Solis, and then we have a lot of public comments we need to get back to. So let's try to wrap up this item. Also, with the answers, Peter, if you're asked further questions, if we could make them as quick as possible, that would be great.
This was incredibly, oh yeah, sure, sorry. This was incredibly helpful. Thank you so much. I was actually wondering if it would be feasible to get like a summary, potentially like a chart or table that goes through and lists the different formula grants and discretionary grants that we're going to be eligible for and the amounts in each of those. So we have a little bit more granularity, not a huge deep dive, but just a little more clarity on what are the different formula grants and discretionary grants, and what the available amounts are going to be for California, so we can begin thinking about how our programs can fit into those two different funding sources. Not right now, sort of a quiet request for staff to come back in a week or 2 or 3.
We actually have something that we've created, so I'll be happy to send that on to you.
Oh, amazing. So right now.
Yeah, we have something for
Thank
sure.
you. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Mayor Satel-Solis.
Thank you. And along that same line, I would like to know, how shovel ready does ready mean to be eligible for these resources? And I guess I just, if we could ask the consultants to work with our staff, to give us that direction. Because if we're looking at spring, and if quickly, Chair, if Peter could share what that insight looks like in a snapshot. If not, then we move to the next one. But I'd love to hear how ready we need to be in order to be eligible for these resources.
Yes, the answer is shovel ready is not a concept that's being attached to these programs. You might recall it was a big feature of the stimulus program back in 2008 and 9, but that is not a requirement here.
Awesome. Okay, well, that's good to know. And I would ask Sandag staff then to give us those parameters of what then we need to have it. Do we need to have architecture? You know what I mean? I think it really gives us that that guidepost. So when we start applying for those monies, we know what to expect and start working on it now. Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you, Peter.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to call on our attorney here. Oh, thank you again for the update, Kirk and Peter. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having
So I'm
us.
going to call, I'm going to call on our attorney or the clerk to review where we are. Maybe John Kirk should jump in here.
Absolutely. So with the consent agenda, I'll point out that instructions for providing public comment are on the cover of today's agenda. We understand that those might not have been clear to some members, so I'm going to go over those quickly. If any member would like to provide live comments on any item, if you join through the Zoom link that is provided on the cover page of the meeting agenda or on Sandag's webpage link to the agenda, when public comments are called for on an item, and that would be either when they're specifically called for by the clerk, and the deadline for that is going to be during the course of any presentation that is made. On the Zoom platform, click on the raised hand icon in the Zoom toolbar. That's at the top right of your screen. And the chair will then call on you by the name you provided. If instead you're calling in, you can participate by telephone by pressing *9 on your telephone. This will activate that same raise hand function to indicate your desire to speak, and the chair will call on you by the last 3 digits of your telephone number. The organizers will ask you to unmute when you're called on, and all comments, whether emailed or live, will be made a part of today's meeting record. Because this was not clear at the beginning of the meeting, my recommendation is that we go back to the consent agenda and allow those members of the public who would like to speak to provide comments per these procedures.
Okay, yes, let's definitely do that. Mayor Jones, did you want to comment before we go to the public speakers?
I just wanted to say one quick thing, and that is that public and member comments are prior to the consent agenda. It was actually, I didn't even hear it myself, to be honest. I didn't hear that part that we were on item number 1 and asking for public comments or member comments. So I might have missed that, but I didn't hear that. And that's not part of the consent agenda. It's before that.
Right. Yeah, I did actually say that right after the flag. But regardless, it was fast and nobody raised their hand and we didn't verbally explain the instructions. So it is really obviously important that we allow the public the opportunity to comment. So let's go ahead and we're basically going to redo this item. We're going to hear public comment and then we'll vote again. So Francesca, how many public commenters do we have?
I currently see 8 hands up from the public.
Okay, so you can go ahead and call on the public speakers.
Okay, they're continuing to go up. I see 10 now. I'm going to start calling in the order that hands were raised. As mentioned, I'll call on you by the last 3 digits of your phone number if you are using your phone rather than the Zoom platform.
Okay, first, wait, hold on a second. So we need to go to 2 minutes and then because we do have a board meeting starting in less than 30 minutes. So 2 minutes for public comment. And then after the first public commenter is over, then we'll close the ability to continue to raise hands. So we need to have people raise their hands right now so we can have some certainty about how many public comments we have.
Thank you, Chair. And I see we have the 2-minute timer up. So I will go ahead and call on the person with the phone number ending in 923. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and start your comments when you're ready. You're currently self-muted, so if you press *6, that should open up your microphone.
Yes, good morning. I just wanted to clarify, did you say 8923?
I only see the last 3 digits of 923, but you are the right person if you'd like to go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Charles Parisi, City of San Diego resident. I would just like to, first of all, thank all of you for being public servants and appreciate all of the work that you're doing to try to improve San Diego County. And I just want to state the obvious, which is, you know, Sandag as an organization has no money. Sandag as an organization has no economic driver of money. It is the people's money, and it's ideally you're stewards of the people's wishes and the people's money. And I would just like to say that I stand firmly with the National Black Contractors Association, because this is as much a human infrastructure bill as it is a public works project and public infrastructure. And I can't emphasize enough from a diversity, equity, inclusion perspective, and inclusion does not mean membership in a union. From a DEI perspective, from an ESG perspective, I think it's critically important that the SANDAG board and everyone involved in this process help lift lives and the people infrastructure that this bill is meant to support, and help provide the jobs to apprentices and folks earning their journeyman cards through the National Black Contractors Association. These trades jobs are worth millions of dollars over the lifetime, including pensions, and they make a huge difference in the lives of these individuals, their families, and their children and grandchildren someday. And I just want to encourage SANDAG to not exclude the National Black Contractors Association in any way, shape, or form. Figure out a way to make it work. Let's use the word can as opposed to can't. And I want to thank you for your work, and please invest this money well, and let's lift lives together with the money that comes from the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker, and just as the chair mentioned, we have 17 hands up now. We're going to go ahead and close the public comments on this item. If you didn't get your hand up in time and you'd still like to make a comment, please feel free to email me at clerkoftheboard@sandag.org, and I'd be happy to make your comments a part of the record for today. So the next person is the phone number ending in 846. If you can go ahead and press *6 to unmute your microphone, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Hi, my name is Robert Wood, and I'm calling on behalf of the Black Contractors Association also. I am kind of appalled that they're thinking about putting together a project labor agreement that doesn't actually include them, or that forces people to unionize in order to be included in this. It's supposed to be something that's supposed to lift all boats. It's supposed to include minority communities, and I'm hoping that it will. What I'm asking the executive committee to do is put off a vote on this until you have something that includes the Black Contractors Association. Currently, the PLA proposal for SANDAG excludes them, and by doing so, it excludes them for participation on $1 billion of SANDAG projects over the next 30 years. Now, let's look at this. In July 2021, SANDAG made a commitment to the National Black Contractors Association in its regional plan resolution. They should live up to that commitment that they made earlier this year in the MBCA, including the MBCA, National Black Contractors Association, and project labor agreements. I mean, that would make sense. On November 19th, the National Black Contractors Association graduated 50 apprentices, new entries into the construction workforce. A community benefits program that excludes the National Black Contractors Association excludes opportunities for new graduates who have received their state and federal approved master journeyman cards and are worthy to work. I don't see why they should have to unionize in order to have access to the construction industry and the available work. And so I want to make that part of the public record. I really think that the National Black Contractors Association deserves to be included in this, and that those people who are going through their program also deserve to be included in it, and it shouldn't stand on whether or not they unionize.
Thank you very much. Our next person is the phone number ending in 192. Please go ahead and unmute yourself with *6 and go ahead when you're ready.
Hello, good morning, SANDAG Executive Committee. This is Shane Harris, the Government Affairs Director of the National Black Contractors Association. I am calling in regard to the proposal that you are preparing, which essentially would shut out the National Black Contractors Association, the nation's only state and federally approved apprenticeship program specific to the African American community, but serving the BIPOC community. The current community benefit agreement proposal you all are developing and bringing forth on the 17th or planning to bring forth excludes the National Black Contractors Association from participation on billions of dollars on SANDAG projects over the next 30 years. That's nearly the next 3 generations. In July 2021, SANDAG made a commitment to the National Black Contractors Association in its regional plan resolution. SANDAG should live up to its commitment it made earlier this year in its resolution by including the NBCA in project labor agreement negotiations, or rather community benefit agreement negotiations. And number 3, on November 19th, the NBCA graduated nearly 50 apprentices as new entries into the construction workforce. A community benefits agreement that excludes the NBCA excludes opportunities for new graduates who have received their state and federally approved master journeyman cards and are ready to work. They should not have to unionize in order to access the construction industry and the work available. With all of that being said, we are looking at billions of dollars over the next several years in an infrastructure investment that just recently passed and was signed by the president that will go across the country. We need to ensure that African Americans and BIPOC communities, in particular to the organizations that essentially represent them, the National Black Contractors, that we don't exclude them from opportunity. In that same vein, I am thinking about the voiceless construction blue-collar workers around our county who cannot participate in SANDAG meetings.
Thank you very much. Our next commenter will be Eric Kristen. You can go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you. My name is Eric Kristen. I'm the Executive Director of the Coalition for Fair Employment and Construction, a San Diego-based organization started 23 years ago by local union and non-union companies to come together to oppose discriminatory and wasteful project labor agreements. Thanks to our leadership, we helped pass bans in the city of San Diego and the county of San Diego. Overwhelmingly, the people saw PLAs for what they were, which was discriminatory and exclusionary. And yet the board is voting today to move something to the full board that would include a project labor agreement that hasn't even been made public yet. And I think it's imperative to understand that when you're going forward to the people for a tax increase to pay for projects, many of which are necessary and that the community, the construction community does want to participate in, but you are seeking to implicitly and explicitly exclude members of that community, as we've heard from our brothers and sisters at the BCA that just spoke, they're not included in any program in Diego County. Any non-union apprenticeship program, including the BCAs, are explicitly forbidden from being employed and used on any PLA that's currently used in the county of San Diego, San Diego Unified, Chula Vista Elementary School District, anywhere. So project labor agreements, because they explicitly and implicitly discriminate against workers, you're telling the greater community, 90% of whom are non-union, 90% of the construction community, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, gets up on a daily basis, chooses to work and earn a good living in a union-free environment. That's their choice. To punish them, you're telling the greater community and taxpayers that not all of us are created equal and want and are going to be treated equal. So if you go forward with a tax increase, you're going to have guaranteed opposition to any tax increase because of the bigoted language that a project labor agreement includes.
Thank you very much. Our next commenter will be Carol Kim. Carol, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, board members, for taking the time this morning to discuss this item. I just want to correct some misunderstandings that are clearly out there. There's a lot of rhetoric right now that's being shared about exclusion and bigotry and the non-inclusive nature, the requirement to be union, et cetera, regarding the project labor agreement. My name, by the way, is Carol Kim. I'm with the San Diego Building Trades Council. I'm the business manager there and was an integral part of the team that helped negotiate this agreement alongside the staff, the very hardworking staff of SANDAG, by the way. It was a very robust and good set of negotiations that we all entered into regarding this. And I just want to note that California Public Contract Code 2500, which regulates the utilization of project labor agreements, explicitly and strictly forbids discrimination of workers regarding whether they're union or non-union, contractors, whether they're union or non-union, et cetera. In fact, historically and across this county's very diverse group of project labor agreements that exist at various types of public agencies, you will find that the vast majority of the contractors who win those bids are non-union. And while there are obviously a lot of union workers that are being dispatched to those projects and that work, there are many, many non-union workers who actually benefit and have actually vested in union pension programs, completely vested in them because of the opportunities provided by project labor agreements like this one. So we are working very hard to make sure that we are actually including communities of color in all of our unions and in all of our programming, our apprenticeships, et cetera. We graduate hundreds of folks every year from our programs collectively. And we are looking forward to doing more good work, to do more of that and make sure that everybody has these opportunities to have transformative and prosperous lives in construction careers here in San Diego. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I did just want to remind members of the public that we have closed the comment period on this item. I do see hands continuing to go up, and unfortunately, we won't be able to call on you. So please do email me at clerkoftheboard@sandag.org if you would like to make your comments a part of the record for today. The next person I'll call on is a phone number ending in 055. Please go ahead and press *6 to unmute yourself, and you can begin.
Hello, and thank you for this opportunity to comment. My name is Carlton Brown, and I represent a Black construction company, greensustainablesolutions.net. My comment has to do with because I'm not a member of a union and have had projects in La Jolla and been excluded from projects because we weren't in the union. I strongly agree with all of the comments that have been made. I was very surprised when you had your roll call and how many women represent this board. And it's not that I'm saying that women don't do a great job. You do a wonderful job. I have 5 sisters. I know you women rule the world. But what I'm trying to say is the representative for North County, I live in Carlsbad, has never spoke to me, have never been available to me. And I don't know how to make contact as a Black contractor to break into the opportunities that are available that are never even offered to me, RFP, or it never even available to me as a Black contractor who's licensed, contracted, my bond and my workman's comp is current. And I don't understand why we have to grovel and beg for opportunities that we are entitled to, that we're available, and we follow all the rules and regulations to be able to get these opportunities. So I just stand behind all of these comments and say, North County, we're the redheaded stepchild. I know you guys do everything in San Diego, but we exist. You know, North County is a part of your community. It's a part of your taxpayers. It's a big part of your opportunities that you present, especially in the La Jolla Basin. We need to have access, and I appreciate if you would do that for us. Again, Carlton Brown, 805-550-7055.
Thank you very much. Our next caller will be Gretchen Newsom. Gretchen, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Sorry, Francesca, it took a minute to unmute. Gretchen Newsom on behalf of IBW Local 569. I wanted to share that the building trades in Sandag are committed to creating programs and career opportunities that provide access to a skilled and trained workforce and addresses the needs of underserved groups that have historically experienced significant barriers to participating in employment in the construction industry. We have negotiated a PLA that provides equity, strong community outreach, local hire, and additional support for DBEs and small businesses. This PLA aims to create economically sustainable benefits to the entire region, derived from employment and training programs to help individuals that are systemically marginalized. It does not discriminate against anyone, and it promotes and includes all state-approved apprenticeship programs. To be clear, it does not exclude the Black Contractors Association. We look forward to discussing the PLA fully on December 17th. and collaborating further with SANDAG and all the board members to provide quality construction careers throughout the region, and also to continuing our support for policies that create careers, advance racial and gender equity, and assist vulnerable individuals located in underserved communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next caller is Ron Halbert. Ron, you can go ahead when you're ready. Ron, it looks like you're self-muted at the moment. If you can go ahead and unmute. There you go.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is Ron Halbert. I'm the president of ACEC, which is American Council of Engineering Companies here in San Diego chapter. And the engineering companies here have not been able to see what this proposed CBA is all about exactly. And we're concerned about having a PLA assigned to a project where it may influence keeping out non-union companies out of it, meaning that is a non-union company working with a PLA typically ends up spending $30 an hour back into the benefit program into the union to be able to be allowed to use their in-house people. This would cause a lot of the non-union companies to be able to do any work on this project. Additionally, we have found that a lot of the non-union minority groups or disadvantaged groups and so forth will not go on and sign a PLA, and this will push you guys out of being able to meet your goals ultimately. We'd like to have the opportunity to look at this and maybe even have a communication or talk in regards to this and understand this PLA before it is assigned in December. Thank you very much for your time. If you would like to reach me, you can reach me at rhalbert, Halbert, at ninoandmore.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next caller is the phone number ending in 927. Please press *6 to unmute yourself and go ahead. I still see that you're self-muted. Let's go ahead and move on to the next person, and I will come back to the person ending in 927. If you have a phone number ending in 999, please go ahead and press *6 to unmute yourself, and you can go ahead when you're ready.
Yes, hello. My name is Desmond Collins, and I'm calling for my support for the National Black Contractors Association. I believe that the current PLA benefit agreement proposal for SANDAG excludes the National Black Contractors Association from participation in billions of dollars of projects over the next 30 years. And also, SANDAG should stand up to their commitment they made back in July about including the BCA in any project labor agreements. So I think you guys should pause your vote on the PLA until the BCA is included. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. The next person ending in 927, if you could go ahead and try and unmute yourself with *6 again. Seems like that's still not working. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next person. Matthew Leyva Gonzalez, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Good morning. My name is Matthew Leyva Gonzalez. I am the newly hired business representative for the San Diego County Building Trades. I'm also a proud member of Labor's Local 89. I am proud third generation union labor. I feel it's very important that these PLAs, one of the aspects I'd like to touch on is our recruitment. One of the programs which deal with community partnerships and involvement is homework. And this particular program looks at recruiting previously incarcerated individuals, and it enables them an opportunity to go through an apprenticeship program, to learn a skilled trade, to empower them to want to continue to do good, not only for themselves and their family, but for the community. providing them all of the benefits that are included, healthcare, phenomenal pension, things of that nature. So it's real important that we do the outreach. Also, one of the aspects of the PLA that I really like to touch on is the local hire. It's very important that this local hire enacted in the PLAs provide the workers the ability to work within their neighborhoods. So it limits the amount of time that they're stuck in traffic, which ultimately contributes to them being able to spend more time with their families. In addition, they're able to put funds back into the community. And it's very important that PLAs continue on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next commenter will be Francine Maxwell. You can go ahead when you're ready.
Good morning, Francine Maxwell, NAACP San Diego branch president. I want to say thank you for the presentation, and we want to make sure that the audio is matching the video. A lot of people are professing that the BCA is in there, but I'm a little bit concerned when I read the NAACP San Diego branch is celebrating 102 years, rise to the challenge, answer the call. And we've received a lot of calls with concern throughout the region because our territory is big. We want to make sure that women that have just received their Journey Women's Card can get access to the billions of dollars that are coming down the pipeline. This is something that we are really paying attention to because everyone in this season is talking about equity and equality. So please make sure that there's an extra meeting that the public, the taxpayer can see, and we can highlight where we see BCA and the men and women that have recently graduated will be participating. We want to make sure that our elected officials hear loud and clearly from the community. And it seems like there was a couple of comments that said SANDAG staff works very hard. Yes, they do. And when you make the kind of money that employees are making, that's what you're supposed to do. So please be mindful that we want to make sure that there's some extra public comments coming before you vote. We want to make sure that we can open up the document and highlight exclusively where we see that people that are not part of a union will be made whole, and we can keep the generational wealth going. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Our next commenter will be the phone number ending in 842. Please go ahead and press *6 to unmute yourself and you can begin.
Good morning. My name is Juliet Hollinsford, and I'm a proud apprentice through the National Black Contractors Association. This morning, I ask you all to please consider keeping my apprenticeship program and others like it included when moving forward and building the infrastructure in our community. The textbook definition of union is the action or fact of joining or being joined, especially in a political context. However, getting rid of a non-union based apprenticeship isn't inclusive at all. Being a part of the National BCA has introduced me to a life-changing and amazing career path. Every day I step foot on the job site, I face challenges of being a woman of color, but getting rid of non-union based apprenticeship programs takes away from the community that we're trying to build up. It actually takes away from the opportunities that we're given through the program. Some of us don't have the liberty to pay dues to join unions. Some of us kind of live off of the paychecks we get. We can't afford to pay anyone else to keep us employed. And if you take away our apprenticeship program, we kind of lose that, Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next commenter will be the phone number ending in 353. You can go ahead when you're ready. Just press *6.
Yeah, hi, my name is Ricardo Flores, and I'm calling to support my brothers and sisters in the Black contractors and the opportunity for them to be a part of all these federal tax dollars that are coming down, our tax dollars, and most importantly for good paying careers. So I strongly would urge SANDAG to really think about including them and to honor the commitment that was made to them in July. And lastly, I also want to address some of the comments that have been made about ensuring about folks, the building trades working hard to ensure that people of color have access to skilled and trained apprenticeships. That's just not true. In fact, that's actually a lie. We have a report that actually it's data from the state that the building trades provide themselves that show that they are not providing apprenticeships to Blacks. They are not providing apprenticeships to Asian Pacific Islanders, and they are not providing apprenticeships to women. So the idea that folks can continue to say that they are there to support people of color and communities of color is an absolute lie. And they are completely aware that they are not doing that. And we have been working and trying to work with them to change that. And they have not wanted to do that. And again, let us be clear here. All anyone is saying on this call is they want access to opportunity. That's all anyone is saying. And in many cases, what we're saying is they want access to opportunity for building trade apprenticeships. So really, please, folks on Sandag, think long and hard about what's happening here today, especially to my brothers and sisters of the BIPOC community. We cannot continue to exclude each other in the hopes that we're providing equity, because that's just a fallacy. And it's not fair to the people out there in San Diego who are struggling every day and don't have the opportunity to call in. So I would really urge you all to really think about what you're doing here today. And don't think about yourselves, think about the future, as it was mentioned. This is a lot of money coming into our region. Let's make sure that it benefits everyone equitably. And let's remember the word equity.
Thank you very much. We have 4 public speakers left. The next person will be the phone number ending in 791. Please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon. My name is Abdul Rahim Hamid. I'm the National President of the Black Contractors Association. To Mayor Gloria and to Mayor Tella Solis, I want to once again commend you on having the courage to include us in a resolution. But more so importantly, the people are speaking, and the more educated people are getting, and the masses, especially the BIPOC community, the more they're going to take offense to an exclusionary policy or practice, which we are basically promoting or purporting to do under a community benefits agreement. When you write inclusion of apprenticeships and you use the word like JAC and not include UAC, that is exclusion. We just celebrated the graduation of 50 apprentices. We were honored to have the chief of the Division of Apprenticeship Standards, Chief Eric Rood, to be the keynote speaker, along with Arthur Page, who is over the federal government, to commend these graduates who have struggled 44 years to get their journeyman certificates and become builders. What we're talking about is that we have a shortage in the building industry. We have 65,000 apprentices in California. The governor has challenged us to come up with 500,000 apprentices over the next 10 years. So we need every available, willing and ready apprentice program active and engaging in employing and training workers who are going to become unionized, like my son, who's a union foreman on a major high-rise builder, and I have another son who's also a general contractor. Our success levels are very high with the participation of our apprentices that have graduated from the program. They are business leaders. We're not adversarial. And again, Carol, Kim, congratulations to your new appointment. I hope that we will be able to have a dialogue to talk about what is fairness and equality, because we need to pull America together, not divide America.
Thank you very much. Our final 2 speakers will be Sean Keone Ellis, who will be followed by Eric Stevens. Sean, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Good morning, everybody. How are you guys doing today? I really want to stop and take a moment to thank the board on all the hard work regarding this PLA. Now, I'm a political organizer for the United Association Local 230 here in San Diego. We've been operating in this county for over 130 years. So let's just get right to the point and get to the facts. PLAs provide living wages in these lower income communities, living wages where they can buy a home, they could buy a house and actually live and stay in their community. Let's be real honest about the unions. Martin Luther King supported us. Union rights are human rights. Union rights are civil rights. And the mere fact that these business owners are coming here in this call and in this meeting and attacking a project labor agreement that puts regulations on the wages, on the benefits, on their health care, that they don't want to pay their employees, that is absolutely disgusting. And if we're going to use our tax money to build this great region and this great county, let's do it responsibly. If you look across the country right now, PLAs have been tested, have been proven to not only save money on county jobs and on municipality projects, but they have helped thousands of people across this great nation to find gainful employment, to have membership in the union, to be able to take care of their families. So let's speak about the community, the real community here. Everybody that lives in San Diego that wants wages, they want to come into the union. So board, thank you for listening to my comment. Let's speak about our communities. Let's get this PLA done. Let's go out there and take care of these people in San Diego. I am currently in Camp Pendleton right now where there is no PLA work. All I see is Utah license plates, Arizona license plates, Nevada license plates. They're actively coming into areas where there is no PLA, taking our tax money and sending it to different markets in different states. So if we're going to talk about business and we're going to talk about human rights in our region, you need to secure this PLA for the people of San Diego. Thank you so much for your time, and you guys have a beautiful weekend.
Thank you very much. Our final speaker will be Eric Stevens. You can go ahead when you're ready.
Good morning, committee members and Mayor Gloria. It was a pleasure meeting you at the Say My Name Memorial earlier this year. You indicated that you knew my father and had worked with him, the former Councilman George Stevens and Deputy Mayor in San Diego. I was aware of that. It's interesting, I was reading through SANDAG's commitment to equity. And in brief, it says, we hold ourselves accountable to the communities we serve. We acknowledge we have much to change. And we firmly uphold equity and inclusion for every person in San Diego region. This includes historically underserved, systematically marginalized groups impacted by actions and inactions at all levels of our government and society. We have an obligation to eliminate disparities, ensure inclusive opportunities are available to everyone, and we are committed to a San Diego region where every person can thrive. Mayor Gloria, you made a commitment in the resolution I read by including the Black Contractors Association in the full access to all funds available. When someone says everyone has access, if you only have 10% of access, that's not all. Make it 100% and do it as you've committed to do it. Because as you know, Mayor Gloria, when my father started something, he started it to finish it, and for it to be successful, he was instrumental and supportive of the Black Contractors Association. Continue in doing what's right.
Thank you very much. And Chair, that does conclude the public comments.
Okay, thank you. So we are going to re-vote on this item, but I wanted to call on Mayor Jones first. She has her hands up.
Thank you. Yes, so, I was opposed to the original action on the Black Contractors Association and the union-only PLAs. These are serious allegations today, I think, in the public comment, so I'm concerned with that. I'd like to have our attorney, Mr. Kirk, explore whether these union-only PLAs violate our equity statement or if they are in conflict with our equity statement. I think that would be an important thing. And I don't think you will have an answer right now. You might have to look into that, Mr. Kirk, but I think we should definitely do that. I think the allegations that were made today really, I think they deserve an action for us to actually look into this and see that if we are doing what we said we were going to do.
Mayor Jones, I can just tell you that the very definition of a project labor agreement under California state law, it permits all qualified contractors and subcontractors both to bid and to be awarded work on a project without regard to whether they are parties to a collective bargaining agreement. In other words, without regard to whether they are union members. I can't go into the specifics of exactly what will be before you, but we've certainly heard the board's policy direction that whatever we bring back to you be inclusive, and we are mindful of that.
So when will we have that out to the public so that they would be able to weigh in a timely manner? I mean, we had things that were posted, I think, yesterday for today's agenda at the Board of Directors, and I'm concerned about that too. So I'm wondering when would we have that available to the public? Because I think some of the things that we're doing right now, not posting things in a timely manner, and I have brought this up for a few years, is excluding people from actually having meaningful comment and time to prepare and look at things and make informed comments about these things.
Mayor Jones, I can tell you that this item is being agendized for the December 17th meeting. Right now, the protocol for that is that those items generally are posted a week in advance of the meeting. I understand that there are sometimes exceptions to that, but ultimately, you're the board, you can provide us with direction, but I would say that our expectation would be that those items would be posted about a week before the meeting.
Okay, so I would like the Black Contractors Association, I'm sure they're still listening, to be able to weigh in, and hopefully they will be able to have enough time to actually look at everything that we provide to them so that they can weigh in. And then I would like for us at that point in time possibly to have discussions with them as it's posted to at least explain to them what the reasoning is legally that we are not excluding them.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And just to clarify for the public speakers, what is on our consent agenda today, it's that we are voting on whether to approve the agenda to discuss this at the board meeting of SANDAG. So we will be discussing the actual substance of it. We're just saying we want to put this on the agenda. So that is what the subject of this is today, is whether to put it on the agenda for discussion by the whole SANDAG board. So just to make that clear, because I'm not sure everybody's aware of that. Vice Chair Gloria.
Thank you, Chair. And I appreciate that. And I know that we're far over time and we have a board meeting with a lengthy agenda, some important issues, but you're exactly right. I would move the agenda item that we have today, which is to advance the consent agenda. And I would just ask staff, I know that SANDAG staff will meet legal requirements for noticing. Given the interest in this matter, I would say if there's any opportunity or possibility of exceeding that by posting this as soon as possible, I think that would be beneficial. We heard plenty of people make that request today. I recognize it's a work in progress, but I think trying to exceed legal minimums would be great. I also would hope that the staff report would be inclusive of kind of information addressing some of the concerns raised today. I think many of the comments I heard are not matching what I know as facts. For example, in our city, we have our school district has a long-running PLA where I believe over 80% of the contracts go to non-union contractors. Pieces of information like that I think will help when the board considers this item later this month. But again, I know there's a short amount of time, Chair, so I'll move the item, encourage my colleagues' support, and let's get over to the board meeting and do the public's business over there too.
Othello Solis, second.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mayor Minto.
I'm going to make this very short also. I am like Mayor Jones, I'm very concerned about what I heard today. And, John Kirk, I agree with you about how the law reads and everything. I understand that. Unfortunately, we also have to understand that groups that have been marginalized and left out for years, regardless of what the law says. So there may be even some groups here. I got to tell you, I'm so proud of the Black Contractors Association and some of the other associations that have spoken up here. I think there are probably some marginalized groups that have not spoken up because they just can probably figure out, well, here we go again. Well, I would encourage any of them that might be listening that are being represented by a large organization to get them involved so that we can hear from everybody, because this is important for everybody. And when we bring this back to the board, make sure that we have a lot of information in there, because more than enough information is better than not enough information. Thanks for everybody.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. So let's go ahead and vote.
Thank you very much. For the City of San Diego, Vice Chair Gloria.
Aye.
Thank you. For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Aye.
Thank you. For East County, Mayor Vasquez.
Aye.
Thank you. For North County Coastal, Chair Blakespear.
Aye.
Thank you. For North County Inland, Mayor Jones.
No.
Thank you. For South County, Second Vice Chair Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
Thank you very much. And that item does pass.
Okay, thank you. We are going to push the border update from Hector to a future meeting. Our next executive committee meeting is January 14 at 8 a.m. And I will see a lot of you over at the board meeting now. So this